connection to God? What's up, everyone? It's America Plus. I'm your host, Cole McCormick. It's another week, another episode. What's going on, everybody? Happy to be here. It's Sunday, 5:23 in the p.m., y'all. Oh, what a beautiful day to be alive. I'm coming to you after the beach. I just did a great beach workout. I'm feeling really fresh, really good, and I'm just in good vibes, dude. I didn't get in the waves because I still think the beach is, like, contaminated from the fires. Just all the sludge from the Malibu fires just, like, into the ocean, and now, like, all the burnt wood is on the beach, and I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to be around there at all. But I do want to be here at America Plus, y'all. I'm just in good vibes. I had a great workout. I was in the sun. It was one of those like solo workouts. So it was just, it was just good, dude. You know, have you ever been in like a good vibe like that? This episode was really important to me. Okay. I think this might be one of the most important episodes that I've ever put on. Because this is going into something that I think bridges the gap between religion and science. It doesn't just bridge the gap between those two things. It transcends. I seek to transcend the narratives of religion and science with this podcast episode. Okay? That's where we're at right now. That's why you're listening to America Plus. I believe, I have a hunch that we have a biological connection to God. Okay? There's a few different things that I'm going to go into that is going to, I'm not trying to prove this. What I am trying to do is get this idea out there, push this idea a bit more. And if you're thinking similarly, then please engage with this because I think it's really important. So first of all, so why do I think this? I started thinking this around the time, a little bit before my dad had cancer. Just like this, like general thought, like what is belief in God? What is this thing that we call faith? What is this thing that we call life? Like, what is this? Like the narratives that are surrounding us within Christianity and Islam and Judaism and science and Buddhism and Hinduism and Scientology and, you know, pick your religion, pick your thing, dude. All these things, they have like aspects, like there might be one truth, there might be some truths that are true. But at the same time, none of them is like a complete umbrella for the entire cojones of life. And what I aim to do, the path I've been on is I think we can really figure that out. I think there can be one big narrative. I think there is a true narrative to life. And what's necessary to think about this is our body, I think. And what I want to share, I have a story that I want to share that sort of brings the emotion and brings the clarity into this. So my most recent trauma. Okay, so my dad died, right? After my dad died, 8 months ago, after my dad died, I had this insane dream. And I forget if I've shared this before in the podcast, but if I haven't, you're hearing it again. So I had this super intense dream where I was in my home and I was in my childhood home and I saw my dad, how I had like remembered him, you know, like I remembered him when he was like he's like in his mid 30s and that's how old he was when I was a young kid. And so I'm seeing the prime version of my dad. And this is just like 6 weeks after he passed and, very heavy grief. And in the dream, he's sitting on the couch and I go over to him and I sit next to him and I look at him and I'm seeing him smile at me. And it was like pure love. Like I saw like love and I was missing him. And I was like, the emotion was so raw in this dream. And I look at him and I go, I just want to feel you touch my back. I just want to feel you touch me. And I sort of like laid on my stomach on the couch and I felt my dad's hand touch my back. But as soon as he touched my back, I felt electricity shocking me. I felt literal electricity in my back. I felt my back spasming, and in the dream, I'm like shaking and I'm like twitching, like my back is like, like it's seriously twitching. I'm having muscle spasms in my dream, and then I start like dry heaving, and then the next thing I know, I'm waking up in reality, and I'm dry heaving, like, and my back is spasming in real life. I'm literally having back spasms on Earth after this dream, and the back spasms didn't stop for like another like 5 minutes. And I had to like, I was like coming to terms. I was like coming to. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on? Like I didn't know what was happening. And I knew, but I knew it was intense, and I knew what I had experienced was real. I experienced something super real in that moment, and that leads me to continue thinking of like, what did my body go through? My dad's dead, and I have this dream, and the only way that I can perceive this is I had a physical contact with a spirit. And this is not to go into Ouija boards or like summoning spirits, like I'm not trying to get paranormal, even though this story is pretty spooky, but I had physical contact with a spirit, my dad's spirit. This is something that I firmly believe. And this goes into the question of like, what is our connection to God? Okay. And do we have a physical connection? Is there a physical connection to God? I grew up Christian. And so the only connection that Christians have to God is through the blood of Jesus. And this is a narrative that I have come to terms with not accepting. I believe Christianity has. I think when it comes to Christianity, like I'm not even Christian. I'm only following the advice of Jesus. I'm only following the teachings of Jesus, and I don't believe Jesus taught that he was here to die for me. That's a blood ritual. I don't think Jesus believed in blood rituals. I think Jesus was, it's pretty clear what he was teaching. He was teaching about peace and love, and he was teaching about, his greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And when you think about that, and I'm thinking about this, right? Like throughout my life, when you think about that, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Okay. How many of those things are based on your physical presence and your real biology? Love the Lord with all your heart. That's biological. Heart, soul. Okay, soul is a little like spiritual, a little like airy fairy. Mind, your mind is physical. Strength, and your strength is physical. So 3 out of those 4 is physical reality, and one of them is your spirit side. Okay, and I'm trying to go into like the spirit side. Like there has to be a connection to the spiritual side through the physical. Okay. And most recently, I've been reading the book. I sort of talked about it last week. I brought it up briefly. I'm reading this new book by this author named Gregg Braden. Gregg Braden, he's one of these guys who's been talking for decades about this sort of thing, about manifestation, about the Book of Thomas, about prayer, just about these types of topics. Okay. And his newest book that came out in January 2025 called Pure Human. This book is getting into topics that are surrounding like what does it mean to be pure human? What does it mean to be a human? And this is in juxtaposition of what is happening in the current time of technology and AI and this concept of transhumanism. There's some people who think that we are going to give ourselves to technology. We're going to give our entire human experience to a brain chip and to artificial intelligence. And no matter if that's like happening right now or happening later in the future, we got Neuralink. Elon Musk's Neuralink is real. Brains interacting with computers is real. And a lot of people in the scientific field, they think that our consciousness can be uploaded. There's so many movies about this. There's so many stories about our consciousness being into some matrix. Our consciousness is hooked up to some, to some algorithm, to some computer. Okay. And on the spiritual side, when it comes to this idea of a biological connection to God, if you don't believe in that, okay, that's okay. We're just talking about it. But on the flip side of that spirit side, on the technological side, science believes that you can upload, which is a physical thing. You got to plug something in. You got to plug in your brain to a computer for your consciousness to transfer. So the scientific side believes in that. And I'm trying to discuss the spiritual side of that, the spirit and biological side. I think that we already have this physical connection. And this physical connection is our DNA. That's what it is. Like, long story short, our physical connection to God is DNA. And there's a lot of things going on with our DNA that science does not have a clear answer on. Okay. Specifically, I shouldn't say specifically, broadly speaking, the story of evolution and humanity. Okay. I'm not a evolution denier. But when it comes to the story of how humans progressed on Earth, there's a lot of things that just like happened pretty lickety split, dude. Like, things just freaking happened. 200,000 years ago, all of a sudden, 200,000 years ago, humans had art and language and society, and somehow we had things. Like, we were just living. We were living large. And science they have theories, right? And a lot of people in the spiritual realm, the UAP, the UFO realm, they want to say that there is some sort of seeding, some sort of DNA upgrade, and that's an idea that I'm leaning into. Okay, that's an idea that I think happened. I think I know the answer to it. Okay, but I'm not trying to focus on what like. Where did our DNA get upgraded from? Like, who upgraded our DNA? I think I have the answer. I think that answer is Pleiadians. I'm not trying to get into that today. What I'm trying to get into is, why does our DNA have certain properties that cannot be explained easily that makes us human? Okay. So here's a fun fact about DNA and the genes. Okay. So your DNA is the blueprint for humanity. Okay. DNA is the blueprint for all living organisms. Everything has a DNA. And DNA controls genes, okay? DNA controls genes, and those genes control proteins that then make up your life. Fun fact, do you know how many genes a human has? Have you ever thought about that? How many genes does a human have? Answer, 24,000. Okay, that's a lot of genes. Okay, here's another trivia question. Do you know how many genes a lotus flower has? Answer, 40,000. Huh? 40,000 genes. Why does a flower have close to twice as many genes as a human being? Okay, I don't have the answer to that, but my point for bringing up these fun facts is, if humans have less genes than a flower, and humans can do more things than a flower, that means that, naturally, we're more efficient. Our DNA acts in a more efficient manner, okay? We dozed ourselves 200,000 years ago. Like, Elon Musk was somewhere back then, dude. Humans are just efficient. I remember Ye saying a year ago, like 2 years ago, he was in like some interview with TMZ, and he said, humans are God's iPhone. And I love that quote. And there's an aspect of truth to that. We are like the iPhone of creatures. Like, we can do so many things, and we're like the base model, which I think is really cool. And so, long story short, we can do so many things with so little genes. I wish I had the answers as to why a lotus flower has 40,000 genes, but all I know is that I have less, and I'm better than that flower. So screw you, lotus. And in the book, in Gregg Braden's book, he points to some truths about the DNA that is unexplainable and and he brings up this theory that is quite interesting, and I think it's very simple. This idea of DNA being an antenna. DNA is an antenna to our environment and to our emotions, and quite possibly to the larger energetic field that is out there. Okay. Um, so here's a fact about our DNA that no one can explain. That we have a chromosome in our DNA called chromosome 2. Okay, chromosome 2. This chromosome is not just one chromosome. It's two chromosomes that are fused together. This is how Grok talks about it. Chromosome 2 is two separate chromosomes that can be like they can figure out that they used to be separate, but they were fused together, and we're supposed to believe that they were fused together through natural selection and random probability throughout evolution. Okay, so that's just one anomaly. Okay, which I think is very interesting. And chromosome 2, it does a lot of things. What it does, that's not the point. But what I'm saying is that these two chromosomes became one chromosome, and this one chromosome functions completely differently. And it's like that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's incredible. That's incredible. The next thing I have to say, and what he brings up, is that isn't it a fact that science thinks that 98% of our DNA is like junk DNA? And even if that number is incorrect, if it's not 98%, I remember hearing that there are aspects of our DNA that are quote unquote junk. Like, right off the bat, when I hear that, the sheer concept of junk DNA, that's some more quackadoodle bullshit that I've ever heard, dude. Like, that is so stupid. Like, what do you mean we got junk DNA? What the fuck? What's the point of evolution? Isn't the point of evolution that things die off? So if something's junk, why are we still seeing it? And so clearly, if it's still there, if it's still present, then it has purpose. And we just don't know what that purpose is. We don't have the right tools to measure it. We don't have the right insight to observe it. That's what I think. Okay. And when it comes to DNA as an antenna, DNA as an antenna to our environment and to the energetic universe, what does that mean? Well, first of all, we like our bodies. We can affect our DNA. Okay, they've done studies at this institute is called the Heart Math Institute, and this is where some real grounding science is taking place when it comes to information about something called brain-heart coherence. Okay, pretty much when you focus on emotions like gratitude and peace and love, and these are solid things. Like, these are not like some like hyperbole example. When you focus on, there's scientific research, when you focus on peace, love, and gratitude, and when you do this within meditation or prayer or whatever, your heart starts beating differently. It starts getting in a more in sync rhythm, more regular rhythm. And when your heart is in this more regular rhythm, your brain is producing wavelengths that can be measured, that is then in sync with your heart. And your heart, and both your heart and your brain, there's electricity in our bodies. There's magnetism within our bodies. Okay? And here's a fact about the heart that I didn't know. So the difference between the brain and the heart. We all think, so science thinks consciousness is in the brain. But when it comes to the heart has 60 times more electricity than the brain. There's 60 times more electrical impulses going through your heart than there is your brain. Okay? And not only that, your heart is 5,000 more times magnetic than your brain. 5,000 more times magnetic than your brain. What is your heart pulling in? Dude, like, there's you are straight up magnetic. You ever play with those rocks at the zoo? Like those magnet rocks? Like, dude, what is your heart pulling in? 5,000 more times magnetic? And, the brain is where like mostly everything happens, right? We think, we dream, we plan, we look, we scout, like our brain is everywhere. Our brain is it. But these measurable facts about the heart is so interesting. And when it comes to, so your heart's incredibly strong, and you can sync up your brain and your heart. When you sync up your brain and your heart on these positive, loving, and peaceful emotions, it's observable that your DNA tightens and loosens. Okay. And when you're doing this brain heart coherence, which I've low key been doing since my dad died, I've been focusing on these emotions in the morning and trying to like really feel these things. This brings more mental clarity. This brings lower cortisol, less stress. And some people, there's been some studies pointing to that this brain heart coherence brings about more clear intuition. Okay. And that's just incredible. Okay. So there's a chance that your gut feeling, and so like intuition, a gut feeling, there's evidence to be said that your gut feeling is your biology talking with the divine. Okay. What else is intuition? Like you think you should go somewhere out into the universe. You think you should do something in the world. When it comes to like thinking about like what God is, I'm sort of a believer in the Force in Star Wars. I don't think God is an individual. I think God is a field. I think God, he binds us. He brings everything together. Like, whatever Obi-Wan says in Star Wars. I think God is the Force and the source. Okay, this is something that I believe in that. I low-key want to coin that. I want to like trademark that. God is the Force and the source. Okay, and you can connect to the source of the Force through brain-heart coherence with your biology. And when you do this thing, you can loosen, you can relax your DNA. Because when you're stressed, your DNA is like all tight and compact. And when you're stressed and compact and like squished up, like the walls are closing in. C3PO, where are you? Come in, C3PO. Like, you gotta learn to relax. And it's in this relaxed state is when you can like do anything. Or at least you can do more, right? So I think that's really interesting. I'm looking at my notes here, dude. So what am I trying to say here? So here's like another idea that I'm trying to talk about. Are we designed to know God and not just believe it? Okay, so when it comes to thinking about God as this like individual person in the sky, or God as like some jealous thing, I think these are bad narratives. And when it comes to the teachings of Jesus and the teachings of Buddha, it is clear and evident that God is within us. The kingdom of God is within us. The kingdom of God in modern terms is the energetic field of the universe. The kingdom of God, the force, the source, it is within us. It is around us. Every expression of life is that, dude. It's all an expression of God. The trees, the birds, the humans, and humans have such a unique expression and ability to connect with it. Now, our origins are very interesting. I already said what our origins might be, but it's not about what the origins are. It's about who we are. It's not about where or what. It's about who. You. Who are you? You are connected to God. I believe this, and this is a narrative that needs to be communicated, because as more and more people pitch AI, as more and more people pitch transhumanism, this is something that needs to be discussed. People think, now here's a parallel between science and religion. Both science and religion, these two things believe that humans are inherently flawed. Christians believe in original sin. Science believes in death. These two things are the same. Sin and death are equal. And it's these two things that are parallel. And that leads me to believe that the two of them are false. I don't believe in original sin. I don't believe in death. I don't think you're ever really dead. I think this human life is an experience to be had. The only thing that dies is the human cells. Consciousness goes on. It moves on wherever it came from. And so when it comes to knowing God or believing in God, I think these systems that encourage us to believe in God, they promote separation. And when it comes to science and technology, they want us to believe in technology. And they want us to be a part of it. But what I have to say is that I think we are designed to know God. And we can know God through our intuition. We can know God through these positive emotions of peace, gratitude, and love, and these things. We know God through our relationships. Just think about the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to learn lessons through your relationships. A lot of different, it's so funny when it comes to cinema. I'm thinking about Woody Allen right now. I'm thinking about there's so many stories written by, I'm primarily Jewish people, I guess, but just scientifically minded, rational thinking people. This question of the purpose of life comes up, and no one really has an answer for it. Here's the answer. The purpose of life is to learn emotional lessons through your relationships. That's all that life is, and you need to come to terms with what those lessons are. Okay. And you need to integrate those into your life. And that's how we know God. We know God by forgiving. We know God by loving ourselves. We know God by remembering a moment with our mom that we love. We know God by caring for our nephews and our nieces and our sisters. We care. We know God through the love for our cousins and our families. This is God. God is love. God is love. And your DNA reacts to love. There's this there's this field of science called epigenetics. And epigenetics is sort of discovering a lot of different things about how do humans affect our genes. Genes can be activated. Genes within our DNA can be turned on and turned off. And, there's a whole thing about that. If you're in a really stressful environment, some genes will be turned off and you might get sick. We know this. When you're in a happy environment, when you're positive, it's more likely that you are a healthy person if you are living within a happy environment and a happy life. Even though people get sick, like my dad lived a happy life and he still got sick. But what I'm saying is there are different realities to your gene expressions through your constant thoughts and actions and your environment. This is so true. And so when it comes to our DNA and as an antenna, connecting to God, I think there's a way to tune it. So this is the big idea. So whether it be through meditation or gratitude or even a podcast, you have the ability to tune the antenna. You can tune the antenna. You can tune your DNA to something more life-giving, to something wider, to something more possible. And this is a really groundbreaking thing. It's so groundbreaking. Somebody spoke about it 2,000 years ago, and it's so groundbreaking. Another person spoke about it 1,000 years before that. It's wickedly groundbreaking. How incredible is that? What do you think about that? Do you think that's real? Do you think that's real? I sort of just like gave you a bunch of like random facts about the DNA and about the heart and brain, but I think all these things point to we have more control over our body and over our place in space than what has been given to us, what has been communicated to us through our systems. I think a lot of systems seek to control, a lot of systems seek to manipulate. And when it comes to your body and your intuition, you know, the only possible way that you can gaslight yourself or you can lie to yourself is when you believe another person's lie. But if you were to tune in to your intuition, if you were to tune your antenna to God, then you can't go wrong. Because God is love, and that tuning, that antenna will only guide you into love, further into it, you know. You know the tree by its fruits. That's another great wisdom from the Bible. You know a tree by its fruits, and truth brings results. Okay. And so I'm on the path, you know, I'm on the path of developing my fruits from this practice. Hopefully you can see it in my eyes. Hopefully you can hear it and feel it in my voice that this is something true and this is something real. And this is something that needs to be continued to explored. Not by scientific fields, you know, I mean, I would love that, you know, just so there's proof, sure. But this idea needs to be discussed and practiced within the individuals listening to this right now. Can you sync up your heart and your brain? Can you tune in to God? What does that mean? What does that look like for you? To be totally open and transparent, you know, I've been in a sort of a practice of meditating on these emotions. It usually in the morning, I get up and I have the window right here to my right. To my right is I get the morning sun, and I have the sun coming into my eyes. I'm doing that Huberman thing, and I have my hand over my heart so I can feel it a bit more. And I'm really trying to focus on love and gratitude. And sometimes I'm thinking about my mom. Sometimes I'm thinking about my dad. Sometimes I'm thinking about, you know, just a pet or something. I'm like a loving feeling. Can you feel the love? You know, you ever seen The Lion King? Like, can you feel the love tonight? Like, that shit's real, dude. Like, this is real. Like, when you feel it, it's real. And I've had profound moments. Every day it's different, right? But I've had more profound moments than non-profound moments. I've had more profound moments in my meditations on gratitude and love that leads me to tears. And I feel healed from something. I don't really know what I'm healed from, but like in the moment, I'm like, oh my God, it's working. Oh my God, I'm so happy. It's just, it's sort of silly, but it's sort of fun. And I just encourage you to go deeper into that, man. What do you think about that? What do you think about transhumanism? Do you want to give yourself to a computer? Do you think we can just upload our consciousness to a computer? Or is our consciousness already connected to a greater consciousness? You know, that's what I believe. And that's like super controversial. That's like super woo-woo. But, you know, it just makes sense to me, man. Like, it just makes sense. And the more, like, why get married? Why be in a relationship? Why have kids? Why do anything pleasurable? You know, why do anything fun? Why travel? Why? Why do anything in life if we're not connected to a greater power? If this is all just random and nothing and just like, and just, we're just random specks of dust in the cosmos. and we just happen to be on Earth where there's airplanes and oceans and alcohol and weed and women and everything fun in between, dude. Like, what is the point of doing any of it if we're not connected to something bigger? Like, so, I mean, that's my perspective, man. So that's the value I got. I would love to hear what you have to say on these topics. This is a big topic. I might be doing more episodes on this book, Pure Human by Gregg Braden. Just because I'm only like in the 5th chapter. Like, I just thought the first 5 chapters were really interesting. So, but tell me what you think, man. Tell me what you think. That's the value I got. We're going to head on into the value for value section. America Plus is a value for value show. What that means is I bring up a conversation and topics that I think are helpful for humanity. And we just talk about it, and you're able to send me the value. You're able to reciprocate that value in whatever way you want. The best way that you can do that is through the fountain.fm app.
Go to value4value.info for more info, then download the fountain.fm app. It's the best way to support the show.
Okay, so Fountain.fm, that's a modern podcast app that you can support me on. It's an app that lets you send small bits of Bitcoin called Satoshis to your podcasters, to your favorite podcasters like me. And you can send sats with a message attached to it, and that's called a boostagram. So I'm about to read the boostograms from last week. We got a live boostagram coming in here from @MereMortals. What up, Mere Mortals? They sent it in 1111. Satchel Richards from Kyron Down in Australia. He says, boosting live. We're live at the same time. LOL. I freaking love it, Kyron. What up, dude?
Boosting is loving.
Fuck yeah, man. Hello, Kyron. I love it. Yes, dude. Yes. We got a live boost. I love that. And so thank you, Kyron. And I will be reading the boostograms from last week. Last week was on AI maximalism. I said I was an AI maximalist to a degree. And we got a couple other boostograms in. This first one comes in from @Pies. He sends in 100 Satoshis, and he has to say, value for value. What up, bro? Thank you, sir.
Boost.
Thank you, Pies, for the 100 sats. And then we got another one from last week from Kyron Down. He says he had a comment on maximalism. He says, can't say that I'm a maximalist in anything. First of all, he sends in 1,111 sats. He doesn't think he's a maximalist in anything. I don't like putting boundaries around myself, and this seems rather unnecessary. That being said, I'm on board with most of your vision for AI. It is going to change the world. It is going to take a while, and the more, the better. Yes, sir.
And now, as the French say, it is time for
La boost. La boost. And then we got another one. So there's another guy coming in. He was streaming in some sats from a different app called True Fans. So this guy's name is Lyceum or Lyceum. What up, Lyceum? I know who you are. Shout out to Lyceum. He sends in, now I don't know the exact amount because of the way this fountain wallet works, but he was sending in like 26 sats a minute, which is pretty legit. And then he sends in over like 1,000 or maybe even over 2,000 Satoshis. And he has to say, this is from another episode I did on Bitcoin and Trump and Bitcoin. He says, as a supporter of the free market, I'm against tariffs, but I understand your point. I wonder if the United States of America could go back to the gold standard. Very interesting, sir.
Boostar.
Yeah, Lyceum. Yeah, that was on the Bitcoin episode from a couple weeks ago. Thank you for that, dude. Thank you for all your sats. That's what do I think about that? That's value for value. Let me think about my response to that. That's value for value. Lyceum, I don't think they're going to go back on the gold standard because I think Bitcoin is going to replace everything. Bitcoin will replace the standards. Bitcoin is the standard, dude. That's why it's value for value, dog. So thank you to everyone who donated. Thank you to everyone to do that. I also have a PayPal if you want to do the PayPal. PayPal's legit. If you want to send me some dollaroonies, that'd be great. That'd be fun. Yeah, dude. If you want to get in on that, be a part of the America Plus crew, download the fountain.fm app and support me, or go to podcastapps.com and download any of the modern podcast apps and hook up your Bitcoin wallet and support America Plus, because that'd be awesome. Another thing, as we wrap up this episode, is I always play a value for value song. So there's this whole ecosystem of musicians that are releasing their work with a Bitcoin wallet through RSS feeds, and I always play the end of the episode with a song, and I always give the artist 90% of your Satoshi donation. So when you're listening to the song while the song is playing, if you choose to donate, they're going to get this artist. Today, it's 2 weeks in Nashville. 2 weeks in Nashville is going to be getting 90% of your Satoshi donation. Let me share the screen here really quick on Restream, dude. I think this is going to play music. I think it might. It might not. We're going to see if it does. I'm trying to get the music to be played on the live streams because it. All right, folks, that the audio is officially uploaded. Go to your favorite podcast app to check it out. And yeah, peace out.